Hello everyone, this is Freddy Fix-It here, back with another video for folks that are having trouble with early 2000s X5s. I have a 2004, don't drive it all the time, sits a lot, battery dies, and it's challenging to figure out what to do when the battery dies with this particular vehicle. So here it sits behind me, and I'll kind of walk you through some of the challenges that you'll find and how to, what I've learned dealing with this a couple times. So first thing, if the battery is really dead, it cuts out the electronic controls for the door locks and the hatch release in the back, and there's no key opening for the hatch release. And the battery sits in the back, underneath a panel, underneath the compressor pump for the suspension, underneath the spare tire. So it's difficult to get to. And if the battery is really dead, you have no power and you can't get things to open. So it's very challenging. So I'll show you a couple things you can do. First, you always have your really option once you get to it's completely dead is you have to use the your key to access the driver door. That's really your only way to get into the vehicle. So, key. Then you can pop the release, hood release. A little nub will pop out here to raise the hood. And hopefully you'll be able to see there's a charging port right here to jump start the car. So this is what to try first before trying to dig in and get to the battery. So there's a little cap here, you flip it out, you'll see there's a red coated positive terminal. That's a direct battery connection. And then you can either use this post or this ground, this ground point, or a point of your choice for your ground wire. And you have a couple things you can do. If you have another vehicle, you can pull the other vehicle over. And then just like you would normally jump start a car, you can access the battery and use traditional jumper cables or a charger. So like this, or a charger. And I would try that first to just see if your battery is really bad or it just needs a charge. Because these have security systems, and so there's a small draw, and if it sits for a long time, the battery will go dead. So try that first. Again, the charging may take a long time because it's going through all the electrical systems and it's not directly connected to the battery. So you can see what I've done here previously is I added a external battery tender on here, so that, and make sure you don't leave the whole tender in here because that will draw power as well, but just the pigtail, so that again, you can battery tend this, and if it's sitting for long periods of time, the battery doesn't die from sitting or temperature. So that's your option one. Then what happens is, again, the back hatch is still locked if you need to access the battery. So by jumping to this point with a new battery, you should be able to use the fob to spring the back hatch or the control that's inside the vehicle. That's how I've accessed it before. So either with the charger or a new battery and jumped over, or jumping from a car, you can get this thing open. And that's important because you can't access the battery to do any service otherwise. So that's kind of the front of the car, and you maybe want to get, okay, where's the battery? It's not anywhere in the front, it's in the back, underneath the safety panel, under the the rear hatch cover, under the spare tire, and then there's a pump on most vehicles for the air suspension, and that needs to be removed, and it sits all the way underneath there. So it's really hard to get to. And if you don't have access with the back hatch open, you're crawling over your seats and trying to do all kinds of things to get to it, and it's next to impossible. Okay, I will stop here and then pick up when we're at the back of the car. All right, so congratulations if you're able to get your hatch open. That's 90% of the battle. You see, I have just a plastic cover on the back that covers the carpeted section. Then there's a carpeted pad here that you can lift up. And hopefully you can see there's a spare tire right here. You need to remove the spare tire, and then you need to remove the air pump for the suspension that sits underneath the spare tire, and then the battery ultimately sits all the way under that. So once you remove the carpeted cover, there should be a couple pieces in here. Sometimes if the spare's ever been out, they've been removed. You loosen the wing nut here. You can remove this holding plate, put it to the side, and then just counterclockwise you can screw this holder out, or you can struggle and lift the spare tire over top of it. Your choice. It's easier to take it out. And then there's a little handle here that allows you to lift the spare tire up and out, or at least up. Okay, so spare tire out, holding mechanism out, which goes into this spot right here. And this black thing in the center is actually the air compressor. And you can see some of the wires sticking out. The battery is hiding under there. And so you'll need to get a socket set and remove these, I think there are four bolts. This whole thing, I don't actually disconnect it. I just keep it from being, connected to the body, and I just lay it over on its side with whatever connections are going in and out of it, so that I don't disturb that system, because everyone knows that an air system is very kind of temperamental and sensitive, so don't want to disturb it. Just move it, and then that'll give you access to the battery. You may think because it's German or Japanese it's going to be a 10 mil, but don't get too excited. It's actually an 8 mil. So just set up, any type of wrench setup. This is just a typical socket with an extension and 8 mil, and you'll see it'll just clear the space down here, and then you can just loosen these. And they shouldn't be too tight, and you don't have to over tighten these either. There's no seal or anything that you're breaking here. This is just the body mounts for the compressor. So once you remove those 4 bolts, you can just lay the compressor on its side, and you can see the wires running out of it. They come out the right side on mine. I'm sure it's consistent with others, but I just prop it up, and then it gives me full access, almost full access I should say, to the battery. I'm gonna have to remove this bracket to be able to get the corner of the battery out. Then I can disconnect the electrical connections, lift the battery out, put the new one in, reconnect. We should all be good. What I'll probably do, just because I'm not sure if the charging dongle that I put in the front is effective, so I might put a second dongle back here just so I can access to trickle charge this battery and not have to tear everything out every time I do it. That's it. Let's see. I'll remove some of the other stuff and I'll show you the progress. Quick correction, since I was trying a couple different size sockets, the bolts that actually hold down the compressor here are 10 millimeter, and then the bolts that hold down these brackets are actually 13. So apologize, I misspoke. It is 10s, as you would suspect for certain things, but then you got to switch to a bigger size to be able to remove this bolt and this bolt, get this bracket out of the way, and then you can access the whole battery. You can see it clears this other bracket, so you don't only need to move one. You can see here the negative terminal is a 10 millimeter, and then just you can slide that off. Remember, if you have any of the grease that they sell along with the batteries, you can place that on there so the terminals come apart quickly. I think I did that the last time. The positive side looks a little strange, and it's just a flip up cap to be able to access the bolt that you need. Loosen that bolt, positive will come off. Make sure you have the right orientation of your positive and negative, obviously, and then reconnect and reverse the process, and you should be good. And then the car should start. The alarm may go off because you opened the door with the car and the car was dead, but you can use the fob to turn it off, or you can start the car. So you'll be able to figure out, again, I didn't have to move the second bracket to get the battery out, but I had to kind of lift it and take it out at an angle. If you loosen this bracket, then you can pull it straight out, and you just got to make sure that your wires are out of the way. So I put this one in. I wasn't sure exactly when it was, but it was October of 2018, so it's about 2.5 years old. 18-month battery. I don't know your experience with newer batteries, but they don't seem to last more than, just the warranty period or the prorated period, and then they die. So this gave me a year more than I expected. I thought it was newer, but it's not. So I'm going to replace it. I'll see if it'll take a charge. If not, I'll just use it for a core. So if you're like me, there's a little clamp down there that holds the battery in place, and that's probably the hardest thing to get back into place because my hands are too big to fit down in the space in between. So you got to kind of wrangle it and get it in the right orientation. And there's a little, you can see it's shaped like a V, and this side over here folds over, so that goes towards the outside, and then there's a threaded section. So once you find the threads, you're good. But that was a pain. So now I'll remove the safety caps, put this back in, start the car. I'll get a tester to test battery voltage without the alternator on, and then also with the alternator to make sure that it's charging correctly. I fully charged this battery last night, in anticipation of this, so I know it's fully charged. And I'll come back. So you can see I've set my voltmeter here to 20 volts direct. That's the setting right here. And then I'm just going to put this on the negative, touch to the positive. And let me figure out how I can show you this. Okay, so I've set my voltage meter to 20 volts direct current, and it's a little tricky because I'm trying to do this with one hand, video, and touch to each. So I'm getting 12.86. Let's see if I can do this. Oh boy. So you can see it. 12.86. So that's my base charge, and then I'll be looking for a higher charge coming back once the alternator is feeding, so that I know the battery's charging. So you should be able to hear that's the air pump actually pumping air into the air suspension. I have the positive and negative connected, and I'm going to start the car and then test the voltage across the terminals once the alternator is feeding it. Okay, car is running, the air pump is turned off, and let's see if we can test this again. We can get the negative probe to sit in here while we do it. Cooperate. Of course, it does not want to play along. Oh, that'll work. All right, so 14.1516. So the alternator is working fine. It's feeding positive power into the battery. The battery is properly installed and secured. What I may do, as I was talking about putting that dongle, I believe this is the dongle to my trailer hitch. So I'm going to test the voltage on my trailer hitch, and if I have 12 volts constant at the trailer hitch, I'll probably make an adapter just to plug in there so I don't have to tear everything apart every time I want to put it on a tender. I have the one in the front that I showed you. All right, battery is in, connected, car starts and runs, alternator is charging properly, air compressor works, it's back in position and bolted down. Now I'll put the spare tire lifting bracket thing down, put the spare tire back in, cinch it down, put all the covers back, and we should be in good shape. Everything buttoned up, spare tire back in, post back in, holder, everything tight so nothing rattles, and then I'll just replace the carpeted cover. So I can do this while I video. Okay, now the carpeted covers in the back, everything fits. I had to move the little handle for the strap that pulls the spare tire out because it wasn't allowing it to seat all the way down. But that's it. I'll put my little cargo saver cover on top and we're all good. Thank you for tuning in.